Welcome to another battle report, folks. You may have seen a couple of painting guides that I've put up recently for the German tank hunters from the new German book. We've not used all of them in the game yet, so we've decided we're going to have a quick game, me and Brian, not using the full streaming setup, going to use the same table as we used in the last game, that was Tom and Lawrence, and just get a force together, maybe not the most balanced force, but something which is very much based on tank hunters, get it on the table and put it up against the list that Lawrence used in the last game. So let's have a quick recap of Lawrence's list and have a look at all the lovely tank hunter stuff we're going to be using. Here's a list I'll be using today, almost exactly the same as Lawrence's list. There's no smoke or anything, just to get 4 full platoons of T-34s. We actually played that in the last game anyway, even though Lawrence was wanting to use the smoke card with the 122s. But here's the list, guys, right? So, T-34 76s, and he did really well with them in the last game. Just a mob causing havoc everywhere. You've got 3 platoons of 4, plus a company command, and these are the hero variants. And then part of the core formation, a platoon of 7 SMGs, hero SMGs again with Commissar, but I have removed the flamethrower because that 2 points prevented the observer coming on when the 60-40 split was applied for reserves. So, core formation, 4 platoons of tanks, one of them being the command, and a platoon of SMGs. Then supported by hero shock rifles, that's 9 bases plus Commissar. They might be able to get a heavy machine gun in with a spare point going, I'll have a look at that. And then big hitters, SU-100s, and 122 artillery with an observer. So there you go, there's the Soviet list. It's got lots of interesting potential, but it's a very attacking list. It's maybe not so good in defence because there are so many tanks, not so much anti-tank guns, and those tanks need to get in about the enemy if they're going to survive. So I'm going to be playing the Soviets, and Brian is going to be using the Germans, because even though he might have not used all of these before, he is at least familiar with the Germans and the tactics. So lots of tank hunters, guys. What we've got is a core formation, the Panzer 470V formation, which is Company Commander 2 and a platoon of 3, and then Panzer Grenadier platoon. Then 3, these are going to be Wirbelwinds. I'm using mobile wagons because the Wirbelwinds are not painted yet, but they're going to be Wirbelwinds. So that's the core formation. Then in support, there's 2 platoons of 3 Marders, and the sort of ubiquitous, it's there all the time now, a platoon of 3 Wesps with Panzer III Observer. So, there's the 2 lists. The armour on these guys is terrible, but the gun's good. So that should be an interesting matchup against these guys. And then you've got these guys here, the armour's not great on the SU-100s, but anti-tank 15, very good. These guys, front armour 9 is good, anti-tank 14, so it's an interesting matchup, guys. And we're going to play a fair fight mission, so that both of us have to be aggressive and take an objective from the enemy. So we'll go over to have a look at that mission now, and before that we will have a look at some key units. The SU-100 is a Soviet tank killer. It has a tactical move of 10 inches, but it's got a cross check of 5, so you need to be careful where you're deploying it because it won't cross obstacles easily. It's careful, so hit on a 4+. It's a veteran, so it's got a 3+ skill. And it's also fearless, though it doesn't fare so well in assaults with lower stats for that. The 100mm gun has a 32-inch range. It's got a rate of fire of 1. It's slow firing as well, which means it has a penalty of 1 if it's firing on the move. Its anti-tank is 15 and its firepower is 2+, so it's more than capable of taking on all but the heaviest German tanks and knocking them out. In late war, the T-34-76 is being replaced with the T-34-85, but is still available in large numbers. It is aggressive, so it's hit on a 3+. Is confident, so motivates on a 4+. It is either trained or green, depending on the hero or non-hero choice you take, and the hero choice also has the crafty tactics rule. The front armour 6, side 5 and top 1. The tactical move is great at 12 inches with a superb cross-country dash of 24 inches. The 76mm gun has a range of 24 inches, which isn't long. The anti-tank rating is 9, firepower 3, but it also has the overworked rule, which means it's at a penalty of 1 when it's moving, and it has 4 MG dice. To be effective, these tanks need to make the most of their speed and manoeuvrability. The Panzer IV-70 is a tank hunter with a Panzer gun on a Panzer IV chassis. It is rated as careful, so is hit on a 4+. It is confident, so motivates on a 4+, but counterattacks on a 5+ because it's an assault gun. It's got the Third Reich rule, so last stands on a 3+. It's veteran, so it's 3+ skill checks, except in assault, which is 4+. A tactical move of 10 inches, but a slightly slower than average cross-country dash of 16 inches. The gun has a very long 40-inch range, with a rate of fire of 2, anti-tank of 14, 3+ firepower, and is forward firing. The cross-check on this vehicle is only a 5+, so it's not going to be the most manoeuvrable vehicle. You want to get it into a position where it can use its exceptional range and hard-hitting anti-tank to take out the enemy, whilst perhaps keeping yourself in cover and your flanks protected. The Marder is a lightly armoured mobile anti-tank gun platform. It's careful, so hit on a 4+, confident, so motivates on a 4+, but it counterattacks on a 6+, being an open-top self-propelled gun. It's got the Third Reich 3+ last stand. It has a skill of 3+ for being a veteran, but assaults on a 5+ once again for being an assault gun. Front and side armour are very weak at just 1, with 0 on the top. The tactical move is 10 inches, cross country is 18 inches, and cross checking a little bit weaker at 4+. The gun is a 32-inch range, a rate of fire of 2, an anti-tank of 12, a firepower of 3. The gun is more than powerful enough to deal with any medium opposition, but you need to keep this vehicle in cover as much as possible due to its own weak armour protection. So we're playing Scouts Out. It's kind of a variation on Dust Up in a way, with the both sides having to move to defend an objective as well as attack and take an opponent's objective. And you can see the objectives are also kind of squeezed over towards the sides of the table, and the reserves are arriving in the deployment zones. So there's going to be a definite attack diagonally across the table. In terms of special rules, there's not a hell of a lot going on here, folks. You've got meet and engagement, so whoever goes first can't use artillery bombardments or planes. Oh, I forgot to mention there is a plane, Sturmovik, in the Soviet list, so that'll be interesting with the Werbel. We'll see how, if they even bother each other during the game. And then it's delayed reserves for both players. And going back to the map, you can see both sides will be placing the objectives down in their opponent's halves, or quarters rather, of the table. And the attacker's nominal in this game. You just roll to see who attacks, so they can choose somewhere to attack from, and then the first turn is determined by a roll of the dice after both sides have alternately deployed their platoons. So there you go, guys. Scouts Out, first time we've played this mission. Okay folks, we have deployed. It's a bit of a blur of zones marked out here, but I'll try and explain them all. So first of all, we've got an objective deployment zone. Then we've got a unit deployment zone. This is for the Germans. And then a further objective deployment zone. And you can see I put one down here and put one down here. And this kind of placement of an objective can make it a bit tough for defenders to hold on, because if they can get pushed off the objective in one turn because they can't deploy in front of it, so it can be quite tricky. And I'll go into deployment in a second. Then over here you can see Soviet unit deployment zone, objective deployment zone, and objective deployment zone. So we could deploy really quite close to each other, but neither of us is taking that bait. What I've done here is Brian stuck one objective down here and one over there. He's not opted for here because of the woods, and his vehicles do not do very well for cross checks. So I've placed my submachine gun platoon here, my artillery down here, keeping out of line of sight SU-100s, and then the Hero shock rifles, and an observer. So in reserve I've got 4 platoons of T-34s and a T-34 command, basically all the tanks. Now there's 4 of them in this delayed reserves, so that may be a bad move because it could take forever for them to get on the table. But this is just a nice even split, so it's a bit of a defensive stance. We'll see what happens. Brian has got his, for reserves, he's got his Panzer 470s in reserve, and everything is very mobile in his army, so he's got them in a position to try and take advantage of that mobility. So he has not put anything on the objective, there or there, but he's close to that objective with his Wesps. He's got his first platoon of Marders here, second platoon over here, and then the infantry out of sight just now, along with the Whirlwinds in a position so he can move out. Because remember guys, you get nothing in this game just for holding on to objectives. So Brian's maybe taking a bit more of an aggressive posture than myself. I think if this was Lawrence and I played this list the way he would, there would be 13 T-34s lined up here, ready to go for that objective. And a gauntlet of Marder fire. But we'll see what happens guys. Now, I'm going to tidy up all the deployment markers, and we'll come back after we've rolled to see who gets first turn. And remember, there's a Sturmovik flying about here supporting him, but if the Soviets get first turn, no artillery, no planes, and they fire with everything as if it has moved when calculating rate of fire. So sometimes it's good to get first turn in these free sort of fair fight missions, free for all type missions. Sometimes it isn't. Okay there, so Brian got turn 1. And he basically did a bit of movement, breaking out of his deployment zone, half tracks dashing to here, anti-air moving up to here, some Marders moving up, the other guy staying, gone to ground. Can't do a bombardment this turn. And he didn't want to lose any gone to ground on these ones to do any shooting, so that's the end of Brian's turn 1. So not much happening there, but it can quite often go like that with these kind of games, folks. I don't think I'll be doing too much, but let's see if I do anything in my turn 1. Soviet turn 1. So in terms of movement, in terms of planes did not arrive. In terms of movement, I've just hedged these guys, staying out of line of sight of any artillery observers, just moved them up a bit. So the only shooting was artillery, and on the third attempt I managed to range in here, but needing a 6 to hit, I didn't get anything. So another uneventful turn there, folks. Over to Brian for German turn 2. German turn 2, so in terms of movement, there's been a lot of dashing going on over here you can see Marders that came from here, anti-air, and then the half-tracks. And that's, as it turns out, a very good blind spot for the observer. So he's not going to be able to plant something right in there. These Marders also moved up, so there's some good cover fire going down the road, but Brian's observer didn't have a very good observation point, so he's had to bring him over here to look down the road. So he's missed out on a turn off bombardment, I fear. Next turn though he can have a go at me. So he'll be rolling for reserves next turn, but there you go, a big lump, an aggressive force ready to move up, perhaps to threaten this objective. Soviet turn 2, so they got the plane this turn. In terms of movement, these guys did a blitz to get line of sight up the road there, and specifically line of sight on this big lump over here. Everything else stays still. I'm just using this as a Sturmovik. So we'll go with this first. So when it flew, 4 dice of anti-air from these guys, and it failed one of his saves, but I rolled a 1, so didn't shoot it down. These guys fired, was it 15 dice? Only got 6 hits, and every save made. So it was like, okay, in for the kill. Everything under the template, didn't range in. There you go, that's planes. That's why I'm having to use one of these to proxy for Sturmoviks, because I'm not a big fan of planes. Because at the end of the turn, that's what you've got. Start of the next turn, you could have that again. It just doesn't excite me. But I know that they can be effective or ineffective. Anyway, that's me moaning because I never ranged in. Then in terms of the rest of the shooting, there was 2 dice from here, and I managed to get 1-6, which is what they needed, and it was straight to firepower because these guys are armour 1, and so 1 dead Marder. So they did get the ball rolling, and I've already weakened the Marder platoon. We'll see if Brian can get any shots back at me, next turn. So German turn 3, and it's a good turn to be a German. Brian got his reserves. He brought on a platoon of Panzer 470s, a couple dashed, and 1 tactical, so he could get a shot down range at the SU-100s. Then in terms of other movement, the wearable winds moved up to here, the infantry are in here and here, half tracks here. Oh, forgot to mention, by the way, last turn, the guys, they are ranged in with artillery on them, last turn. Right, so, it didn't take any casualties. In terms of shooting this turn, the Panzer 470V fired down here and missed. 3 Marders back here, fired and missed. 2 Marders here, fired and missed. And then shooted and scooted out of the way. And that's because these guys are careful, they're not like your normal Soviets, so they're 6s to hit at long range. So that can be a bit frustrating, shooting these careful Soviets. So they've survived, I'm quite happy with that, but he's dead. Shot to bits by wearable winds. There were another couple of hits against the infantry from Brian's infantry, but nothing in the way of failed saves or such likes. So I've got a much restricted options for artillery. I can only see along here, which might do me something this turn, or up there. So I need my company command, I need reserves. We'll see what happens. Soviet turn 3. So in terms of reserve, nothing coming. In terms of planes, yes. These guys forgot to say were bombarded by the West for last turn and they've unpinned. In terms of movement, just moving these guys out of line of sight because the Germans either moved out of line of sight themselves or out of range. So I'm confident they can, well, they should be able to do blitz moves on the 3+. So in terms of shooting, well, the artillery could still see this point here, managed to range in a 3rd attempt. Only got 1 hit on some of the infantry, didn't fail the save. And then the plane came in, and Brian fired 4 dice for these guys, and got 3 hits. I actually failed 2 of them, but I needed a 6 and never got it. 15 dice for these guys, managed to get about 9 hits actually, and I failed 1 save, but he didn't get me. He needed a 5 and didn't get me. So I dropped my bombs here where it was no terrain to worry about, and all I managed to get, I think it raised in first time too, all I managed to get was a bale on that Marder. It might force a motivation, you never know. But they've survived by the skin of their teeth, but not done anything yet. So over to Brian for his turn 4. Jimmy turn 4, no reserves this turn. The Marder bailed back in, so he's fine there. These guys didn't unpin. In terms of movement, the half tracks have moved up to get shots on the infantry. The Marders have moved up in a covering position. These Marders here, Brian's moving them over just to watch what's going on over there, whilst bringing his Panzer 470s over this way. I reckon he's putting pressure on this side and expecting my reserves to fight back over this way, so we'll see. We'll see what happens there. In terms of shooting, holy smoke, these guys took so many hits, it was unbelievable, and survived. I mean, they had 16 dice, God dear, about 18 dice, another 15 dice, plus the artillery with reroll saves. And there was a few failed saves, but only from the weaker firepower stuff, and nothing got killed. So, bit of a disappointing turn for Brian. He could have whittled them. He needs to whittle them down. But at least he kept the Marders on the table. Over to me now for my turn 4 with 2 dice for reserves. Soviet turn 3, so I got reserves but did not get the plane. Now the reserves, I don't feel under too much pressure by this objective, so the reserves have just done their usual crazy horse dash move with a follow me for T-34s. It's mental how fast they can move. These guys, as I thought, managed a blitz move. These guys didn't unpin, by the way. So in terms of shooting, the artillery was still ranged in here, so they managed to kill a base of infantry and bail a couple of half tracks. And then the SU-100s are just nasty. Nasty. One fired through here and killed, it's going to be this guy, killed a whirlwind, and then 3 fired here, as you can see, managed to kill one of the Panzer 470V, so that was a good result. They're now exposed, they cannot shoot and scoot back like a German can, but we'll see if there's any real immediate danger to them. SU-100, so far they're doing really good in my experience. In the game so far I've been quite happy with how they're performing. They're quite survivable and they hit hard, though not very often, but quite good attritional rate possible with them, guys. What do you think? Over to Brian now, where he will be getting his last reserves on his turn 5. German turn 5, so the last reserves arrived on tactical 1-dashed a bit. These Marders tacticaled over from here. These Marders tacticaled over from there. They got themselves out of line of sight for the badness, and they managed a successful blitz to get both firing down range. In terms of motivation, nobody got back in or unpinned. So, in terms of shooting, let's start with these guys again. So, the artillery is still hammering down there, killing nothing, and bucket loads of dice still coming in against these guys, getting loads of hits, but no kills. They're like immovable. They're not going anywhere. So in terms of shooting, the Marders, well, first of all, starting with the company commander up there, he missed. The Marders missed. One of those hit and managed to get a kill. These ones missed. And then the Panzer 470s managed to get 1 hit out of 4, and could have been a kill, but ended up just as a bail. So that could have gone a lot worse for me, could have gone better for Brian. If I was down to 2, I wouldn't feel so confident. We'll see what happens. Next turn I will be getting more reserves. Soviet turn 5, so I got 1 reserve. They didn't unpin. I got the plane. In terms of movement, when these came on, they've kept themselves hidden as much as possible so they can fire on this flank attack. These guys did a bit of a slower dash over the terrain there to get with a follow me to edge up a bit along there, and these are picking themselves up and chasing after them, why not? And then in terms of firing, the artillery over here didn't do anything. It got a hit on some infantry, but they managed to make their reroll saves. Then in terms of shooting, 3 dice needing 6s, I got 2 6s. That, when added to the plane, resulted in the demise of the Panzer 470V platoon. Plane killed one, and the SU-100s killed the other. So they didn't manage their shoot and scoot, so there is an opportunity for the Marders to get some revenge, and the other Panzer 470s can also add to that. But we'll see. 6 to hit, guys. Might be tricky. German turn 6. One half-track bailed in, the infantry did not unpin. They're just going to go to ground where they are. To start moving out there, it's probably going to be dangerous, so Brian's just going to keep them and see what happens. But he's moved his half-tracks because they can't sit in front of stationary T-34s. He moved his mobile wagons over there. They were just in too much danger and not really doing much. Incidentally, they got loads of hits on the Sturmovik last turn, but did no damage. The artillery, these guys did a wee blitz, followed by a wee shoot and scoot around here to get shots downrange on the ISUs. The artillery are not getting anywhere against infantry. They've got these tanks coming. They managed to range in there, but only managed to bail. And then in terms of shooting, there was only out of, I think, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 Marders and 4 Panzer 470 dice. Needing 6s once again. There was only 1 hit from a Marder, and I rolled a 6 from a save, so it bounced. These guys shoot and scoot rather over here. It reduces the amount of shots that can potentially come back at them, and they're out with 32-inch range. So Brian's trying to play his cards as best he can here, but it's looking tricky. These guys just can't kill these guys. See what I do in my turn 6, where I've still got some reserves to come on. Soviet turn 6, so the last reserves arrived, and that comprises a platoon and a company command, and I've dashed them up the road a bit. I couldn't dash them any further because it would have started interfering with line of sight for my SU-100s. In terms of motivations, incidentally, these guys, the infantry are unpinned now. The tank away over there did not remount. I didn't get the plane, so I was over to shooting. So the artillery managed to kill another base of infantry. These guys, direct fire, got a few hits, 1 potential kill, but never got it. And then these guys, the SU-100s, were in range of this platoon of Marders and managed to get one on a 6, which is what they needed. So another dead Marder. I didn't shoot and scoot them because, well, they're surviving so far. They might die next turn, but if I did shoot and scoot them, I know my T-34s coming up the road would get shot instead. So I'm forcing Brian to make choices. Oh, I forgot to mention, those guys are continuing to move up. Failed to follow me, but they're coming up to support the attack on that objective that should be happening quite soon. I'm not sure what Brian's going to do about it. I don't think the Wesps will stand much of a chance, but you never know. German turn 7, so the infantry unpinned, jumped into the half tracks and legged it this way. There's nothing for them to do down there. The Panzer 470s, Brian dashed them up onto the crest of, well, behind the crest of the hill. An aircraft are back there watching that objective too. The Marders pretty much stayed put. One platoon did a wee blitz to get into range of these guys. Brian's plan was to wipe them out, and he just couldn't quite get the range and maintain his full rate of fire to hit all 3 tanks. That one there got 3 hits, and the command tank behind it 1 hit, just because of the ranges. The command tank survived, rolled a 6 for a save, the other one got smashed to bits. So we didn't quite manage to destroy them, but with the smoke it should greatly reduce the return fire. They will have to manage a successful blitz to then tactically move through the smoke to shoot, and even then only a couple will get through. So we'll see. It's a calculated risk Brian's taken to protect the objectives on this side. So we'll see what happens, see what I can do in my turn. So we're at turn 7, so no plane this turn. The T-34 away at the back of the table has not bailed back in. In terms of movement, it's just generally forward with everything except the SU-100s. Getting over hedges isn't very good for them. I'm thinking it might need to keep them for a knockout blow, but we'll see. The little platoon that was over here has come over this way a bit. It doesn't fancy sitting in front of those Panzer 4s, or the Panzer 470s rather. So it's come over to help fight the Marders. And then over here, some of the T-34s managed to get through the smoke, some had to fire kind of with them from within the smoke. So it was a bit awkward. The company commands just moved up. A couple T-34s blitzed over to here, the other one's tacticaled out of command range over to here. And then in terms of firing, these managed to kill one of the Marders. These 4 here between them managed to kill another Marder, but the other 2 Marders managed to survive, but they'll be last standing. The artillery's not got any targets this turn, but the company command may be able to call in something next turn. So lots of losses on the German side, but the core formation has still got 1, 2, 3 units, so it's still okay. I still have to deal with those last 2 Panzer 470s and last 2 Marders. So see if Brian can get a knockout blow against me this turn. German turn 8. One of the Marders ran away. In terms of movement, the Panzer Grenadiers are continuing to move over. They've got 2 threats to worry about. Oh, they've got here and here. The Whirlwinds moves over to here. A wee blitz to get into 2 different flying positions, and then we're ready for some shooting. This platoon's pretty much wiped out. There's a build one left. This guy here got, just tap the face, got 2 hits, 2 kills. This one here got 1 hit, 1 bail, and then the Marder here managed to get 1 hit, 1 kill. The Marder managed to miss. He got a hit and a bail, and then the artillery ranged in and got another bail. So these guys have taken a bit of a kicking. They pretty much had it. These guys have still got a flanking position. You never know. That might be enough for Brian just to hold on. Certainly at turn 8 now, you know, we need to get a conclusion sooner, or we're just going to have to call it a draw. Okay folks, Soviet turn, whatever the hell it is, I can't quite remember. So of significance in terms of motivation, he didn't get back in, but he did, and he didn't run away, so he's come up with a tactical move. In terms of, the plane did not come in this turn, so in terms of movement, these guys are moving up through here, those guys up towards the hedge, stayed still, and stayed still. And then in terms of shooting, these guys between them managed to get 1 hit, which was enough to finish off that Marder. The SU-100s bullied those poor half-tracks, killed 2 and killed 2 bases in the process. There's only 3 guys left there now. This platoon commander killed a Whirlwind, so they'll be testing. I didn't assault because the pressure's there. I don't have to try and lose bases to try and create more pressure. It may run away next turn. So German, whatever the hell turn it is, the Whirlwind did run away. The infantry unpinned. 2 stayed put using cover from the half-tracks. The other half-track moved over here. And in terms of shooting, these guys managed to get 2 bases killed. They got lots of hits, 2 bases killed. The Jagdpanzer here managed to kill and bail on that platoon, so there's nothing left active. The other one though, to get this sole survivor, missed. So he's still coming. And then there was a failed shooting scoot over here to reposition. The artillery stayed put there but didn't get any hits. Brian's just trying to break my company. Kill that. That, and then it's not looking likely. But at the same time, I've started taking an objective. Let's see what happens. See if I can do anything significant in my turn. Soviet turn, whatever. So what happened in that turn in terms of motivations? The guys didn't unpin. Very unfortunate. Because they were pushing on. Could have done an assault. But there you go. He didn't get back in. The platoon stayed. Have I mentioned already? It's been a long day, folks. The wee hero guy at the back there has legged his chance of glory is gone. He's away home. In terms of movement, these guys tried to go over the hedge, but you know they can't get the guns through the hedge. They get stuck. Not a very good cross check. Here, the survivor went up for a flank shot. These guys moved up for assault. The artillery stayed focused where it was. And I got a plane as well. So in terms of shooting, these four here managed to destroy the last half track, but didn't kill the command team. These guys fired at them too, but no luck. But the artillery managed to get one of them. The side shot missed. The planes, however, managed to kill the second in command, which I'm like, what? Really? And then the assault went in. The assault went in successfully. 4 hits, not getting pushed back, but I rolled 3 ones and 2s for saves. And then there was about 3 hits going in, and they were all 1s and 2s as well. But these guys don't have the best counter-attack motivations in there to break off. But I was not within 4 inches of the objective, so that does not make much of a difference. However, at the moment, there is company command plus this platoon. What we're going to do, I think it's only fair, where it's such a long time playing this now. I'm going to roll a dice. I'm going to do it on camera. Brian's quite happy to do it for these guys here. If they stay, it's going to be a very hard fought draw for the Germans. If they go, well then it's a broken company and a win for the Soviets. So they have got the third Reich rule, near a 3 up. They get a 4, so there you go folks, it's a draw. We'll go back to the recap and maybe have a look at the casualties because I think it's quite a lot in this game. So we'll come back for that. Well folks, there you go, a hard fought draw. I didn't quite get over the line, so we've got to give Brian credit for holding on. It's quite often the case in these types of mission that the person who attacks first ends up defending last. You know, you maybe extend yourself, get caught by reserves coming on and such like, so it's always a gamble, always a risk. The significant thing for that game is obviously tank hunters. That's what we wanted to use. A lot of thought on the Russian ones so far, or the Soviet ones. The SU-100 seem to be doing quite well in the games that I've played. Here they really dominated. They smashed the main platoon of German tank hunters and contributed to the demise of a few others as well, largely down to them being 6s to hit. Now, their opponents were also 6s to hit, so you could say it just came down to the dice, but the fact that they can go toe-to-toe against careful tank hunters is a promising sign for the Soviet tank hunters. For the Germans, well, I think for both sides, but especially maybe for the Germans with the lighter Marders, is tank hunters are better in prepared positions, so maybe you're better with them as a small amount in a defensive capacity in either an armoured list or an infantry list. Putting a lot of them on the table is either too expensive for the Panzer 470s or they're a little bit too thinly armoured for the Marders. But that was a good game nonetheless. Good game. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to have a look at the casualties and just to see how close it was in terms of breaking points and so on. Oh, and one more thing, the plane. I don't use planes myself just because I don't enjoy them. You just roll a dice, stick them down, roll some more dice, take them off. Maybe they'll come back, maybe they don't. In this game, didn't turn up very often, killed one important tank, bailed another. I don't know. They didn't have the cannons. They might have been better against the lightly armoured Marders with the cannons, but then you're spending more points on something that might not turn up. Stick your thoughts and experience time with planes, guys, in the comments, because I'd be interested to see that. And let's go over now to have a quick look at the casualties. Soviet casualties. An S-100, poor old observer, platoon of T-34s, half another platoon, a few SMGs who went right to the end, as well as a couple of hero rifles went at the end, but a significant force left. You can see the artillery, a big chunk of shock rifle, not hero rifle, some SMG, a weak platoon of T-34s, an intact platoon, and an intact platoon, effectively, of SU-100s, and the company command, of course, and what counts for a Sturmovik. They just bounced everything that came their way. They made a few fail safes, but mainly to firepower 6 weapons. So a fairly intact Soviet force. The Germans, losses, the Wirbelwinds, full platoon of Panzer 470s, second in command, 2 platoons of Marders, Panzer Grenadier half-tracks, and 5 bases of infantry. And that's what they had left. So they really did have to hold on in the end. That is the formation. But hold on, they did. So thanks for watching, folks. Hope you enjoyed the game. It was just a quick one from us. Well, that was the intention, but it did go on for quite a bit. But hopefully it kept you interested. Thanks to all our subscribers. Thank you for doing that. And if you haven't subscribed and would like to do so, we'd very much appreciate your support.